Beruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Samech Gimel Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom. Our Mishnah made a distinction between biris and kivolim. Biris, says the Mishnah, are taharin, and women can go out with them on Shabbos. Kivolim are tamein, and women are not allowed to go out with them on Shabbos. The Gemara explains, biris are those bands that keep a woman's stockings up, and therefore they are taharim because they serve as a kli for another kli, and therefore they're not mekabel tumah, they're not susceptible to tumah. However, since they are used as a way to allow her stockings to then be kept up, that accessory is considered to be a malbush, and therefore she's allowed to go out with them on Shabbos. And further, there's not a concern she'll take them off to show somebody, because after all, then it'll reveal her legs, and that she would not want to do. In contrast, kivolim, the Gemara explains, these are the chains that are attached to the biris, and they enable a woman to make more narrow strides when she walks, whereby the chains themselves are now coming to then assist, they're coming to then be meshamesh the woman, whereby they're completely a kli that are mekabel tumah. However, since these chains often are made out of gold, let's say, a woman is not allowed to go out with them in the Shus HaRabim, because she may take them off to show her friend and then carry them Daled Amos in the Shus HaRabim. Then the Gemara explained, once we're talking about that which is susceptible to tumah, the Gemara explains that other tachshitim that are kol shehu, that have a small size, can also be susceptible to tumah, and we learned that out from tzitz. And the Gemara also explained that which is an orig, is also a koshu, a very minimum size, is also susceptible to tumah, as we learned from oy beged. The Gemara now brings the following brisa: Tonu Rabbanon, orig kol shehu tamei. An orig, even a small amount, which means it doesn't come from a large beged, and therefore it became, let's say, was cut into 2 small pieces and small beged now. No, it started off as being a small beged, a kol shehu. It's also susceptible to tumah. V'tachshit kol shehu tamei, and also a tachshit, which is a small size, a minimum size, is also susceptible to tumah. Orig v'tachshit kol shehu tamei. A combination of the two things, of an orig and a tachshit, is also, even though it's a small size of a kol shehu, can be mekabel tumah. The brisa concludes, Musaf sak al habeged shatame mishum orig. Greater is the sak than the beged, that it is tamei because of orig. Those are the words of the brisa, and the Gemara now will explain. Omar Rava, commenting on this brisa, Ori koshuhu tamei mi oy beged. The source where we know that indeed an orig, that is the small amount, a small sized beged, is learned out from the Tosefes oy, in the words oy beged. Tachshit koshu tamei mitzitz. Where we know that the tachshit, even though it's not a bigger size, the koshuhu is susceptible to tumah, as we learn now from tzitz, the head plate of the Kohen Gadol. Orig v'tachshit, the combination of the two, kol shehu tamei, says Rav to explain, mikol kli maise, from the pasuk of kol kli maise, coming to say kol, in addition, is also adding the combination of orig tachshit, even if it's a kol shehu, is susceptible to tumah. The Rabban said to Rava, challenging that last limud, Hahu mibmidyan ksiv, you're learning out from Mikol Kli Maise, that's a pasuk from Tumas Hameis, from Midyan. How can you learn that out from there to Sheretz? All of the other things that we're referring to is susceptible to Tumah of a Sheretz, Tumas Shrotzim. And here you're bringing me a proof, a limud rather, from Tumas Meis. Omar le Gomar Kli mehasam. Says Rava, indeed it's a gezerah shava from the tumas meis as well as the shrotzim. In regards to the tumas meis of Midyan, it says kol kli maise. In regards to the tumas shrotzim, it says a similar type of lashon. There it says kol kli asher ye'aseh malacha. So we learn a gzer shava of kli, teaching me that from the tumas hames of tachshit can be learned out to the shrotzim, which is not dealing with tachshitim specifically. And from that gzer shava we can learn that even a kol shehu indeed is going to be metame, even though it's a combination of orig and tachshit. Musaf sak ala beged shetame mishum orig. The last phrase that the Brisa said that in addition that the sak is even more susceptible than tuma than the beged because of orig. The Gemara asks right away, Otu beged lav orig hu? Is beged not susceptible to tumah because of an orig? It's also an orig. So how can you tell me that a sak is even more susceptible to tumah because it is orig? Hachi kamar. This is how you have to say that the lashon of the Brisa means as follows. It means musaf sak ala beged. The reason why a sackcloth, is more susceptible to tumah than beged is af v'she'eino orig tame. Even though that it's not an orig, that's the greater susceptibility. That even though it's not an orig, still it's mekabel tuma. That's what the Brisa means to say. Ask the Gemara, Lamai Chazi, what is this sak that is susceptible to? What is it Chazi? If indeed we're talking about something that's so small. Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Shekein ani koleya shalosh nimin v'toyle b'tzavar bitoy. He says that if an ani were to take three, literally it means three pieces of hair, but it refers to three threads of hairs that were then braided together, just like orig, but this time they are braided in regards to the goat's hair that were braided together, and then they were used as a necklace when they were dyed and used as a necklace for a poor girl to then hang other things on them. That's considered to be a usage, and therefore that's the example of such a sak. Now the Gemara brings a long brisa to explain various things that we're learning in regards to susceptibility of tumah, both in regards to the tumah shrotzim, and then the Gemara will then bring the brisa that talks about a continuation of tumas hames. Ton rabbanim, sak ein li ela sak. I only know sackcloth, which is made out of the goat's hairs. Minayin lerabos is a kalkali ves hachabok. Where do I know that it comes to include not only a sack that is worn by a shepherd and others, human beings, but even straps that go underneath the belly or the chest of an animal. Let's say the horse, when you want to strap the saddle down, you strap it with these goat's haired types of things called kilkali and chabok. How do you know those are also susceptible to tumah? Tamulamar oisok. The additional oy in the pasuk comes to teach me it's also including these things called kalkali and chabok, again, that are made out of goat's hair, but that are used for an animal. It also includes ropes and string that are not necessarily woven. Tamular sak, therefore it says sak, sackcloth. Mas sak tovui va'orig, afkol tovui va'orig. Just like sack is both tovui and orig, it's spun and it's also woven. So too, that which is spun and woven are going to mekabel tumah to the exclusion of the chavol and the meshichos. Harehu oimer bames. Now the Brisa goes on to say, what about in regards to the tumas hames? It says v'kol kli or v'kol maise izim tischatu l'rabos hakilkoli ves hachavak. That also comes to include that it's susceptible to tumas hames, the straps that are used again to strap down the saddle of a behema that go across its belly and its chest. Yochel might think shani marbes hachavolim ves hameshichos. The Brisa says maybe I'll come to include that these things are also included in tumas hames, the chavolim, the ropes, as well as the strings, the meshichos. The Brisa says v'dinhu tume misheret v'time b'meis. It says time b'sheret. It also says time b'meis. Ma b'shetime kishetime b'sheret lo time ela tavui va'orig. Just like when it comes to a Tumas Sheretz, we excluded the Chavon and the Meshichos, because indeed they're not spun and they're not woven. So too, by the Tumas HaMeis, we'll do the same. The Gemara says, no, we can't exclude them just from Svara alone, because, hey, behold, im hekel betame sheretz shehi kala, nakel betumas HaMeis shehi chamura. Just because we're making regards to Tumas Shrotzim, that has to be woven and spun, who says we'll also be making when it comes to Tumas HaMeis, which is much more chamur. So therefore, where do we then have to learn it from? Talmud Lamar, from the Pasuk, Beged ve'or. Beged ve'or legzeira shava. We have beged and or in both places of Shrotzim as well as in Tumas HaMeis to learn gzeira shava. Nemar beged ve'or b'sheretz v'nemar beged ve'or b'meis. Ma beged ve'or ha'omur b'sheretz lo time ela b'tavui ve'orig. Af beged ve'or ha'omur b'meis lo time ela b'tavui ve'orig. Just like by Tumas Shrotzim it says beged ve'or, and there we see that it's susceptible only when it's Tumas, when it's woven and spun. So too, then the Gzeir Shava applies to Tumas HaMeis, which also says Beged V'or, teaching me that it has to be woven and spun. Uma Beged V'or ha'omer b'meis, Tomei kol ma'ise izim. Af Beged V'or ha'omer b'sheretz, Tomei kol ma'ise izim. And just like the Beged V'or is referring to that which is goat's hair, not only woven and spun, but it's also referring to the goat's hair, the ma'ise izim. So too, in regards to Tumas Sheretz, is referring to Maaseh Izim. Ein li ela davar haba min ha'izim. Maybe I'll say it's only goat's hair and nothing else. Minayin lerabos davar haba mizonov hasus mizonov haporo. Where do we know that indeed it's also going to then come to be susceptible if it's from the tail of a paro, the tail of a sus, the hairs from there. Talmud Lorma oi sak. The review of oi sak, the additional word oi, is superfluous, coming to teach me that even includes other things than goat's hair. Ask the Gemara, v'ho afikte lekalkeli v'hab chabak. But we learned above that oi beged, the additional oi, is coming to include these straps that go around the belly and the chest of the animal. The Gemara says, no, Hani mili mekam de leis gzeira shava. When did we need that oi beged? That was before we brought the gzeira shava. But hashid the osi gzeira shava aiserle. But now that we bring the gzeira shava, the oi beged is now superfluous and is now able to be used for this drasha. Ve'en the ela b'sheretz. However, this is only by sheretz. Betumas meis minayin. How do I know this also means you can use the tail of the horse and the tail of the para that are susceptible to Tumas HaMeis? V'dinhu timei b'meis v'timei b'sheretz. The Torah says timei b'meis in regards to, and also regards to Tumas Sheretz. Ma b'kishitimei b'sheretz. Also davar haba mizon of hasus umizon of hapara kimaisa izim. Just like when the Torah states Tumas HaSheretz, the Tumas HaSheretz of the izim is also then, the zonov of the sus and the para are also then susceptible to tumah, just like the maisi izim. So too, af kishetime b'meis asay davar haba mizon vasus umizon vapor kemaisi izim. So too, then let us be consistent and say we learn out just as the mais, that just as the zonov of the sus and the para should also then be susceptible to tumah, just as the maisi izim by tumas hameis. In other words, we learn out from Tumas Shrotzim to Tumas HaMeis, one from the next entirely. Hey, the Gemara now says, is this so? In hirba betumas erev shehi meruba. When it comes to the more common types of tuma, that's only for one night. After one night, a person loses that tuma once he's toivil, and that's a whole list of things. Includes shichva zera, somebody's tummy because of other things, of a zov. But narbe betumas shiva shehi muetes, but something that's uncommon like tumas hameis, there requires 7 days of tuma. So therefore, you cannot learn out from tumas shrotzim to tumas hameis. Talmud Lorma. Now the Brisa says beged ve'or legzeir shav. We have the gzeir shava. Nemar beged ve'or b'sheretz v'nemar beged ve'or b'meis. It says beged ve'or in both places. Ma beged ve'or ha'omer b'sheretz. Also davar haba mizon of hasus umizon of hapar kemaisi izim. Just like when it states in regards to beged v'or by tumas shrotzim, there it's coming to say zon of hapar and zon of hasus, just like maisi izim. So let's be consistent with the gzeir shava and learn out to tumas hameis. Av beged v'or ha'om b'meis asay davar haba mizon of hasus umizon of hapar kemaisi izim. The Gemara now says, umufna. This Gezeira Shava is unique. It's mufna, is being used by words, specifically beged va'or, that are mufna, that are available, which means that they're superfluous. And therefore the principles, if they're superfluous, they're mufna, then we cannot ask a pircha on the Gezeira Shava. Whereas if it was not mufna, and it was needed in order to explain the verse itself, then one could ask a pircha. So the Gemara now explains, umufna, and this that says beged va'or, in both tumas shrotzim and tumas hames, is mufna, it's available, whereby you cannot ask a pircha on the gzeir shava, it's unrefutable. The ilav mufna, because if it was not mufna, ikal mifra, you can ask, ma lesheretz shekei mitame b'ka'adosha, you can't learn out from sheretz, because it's mitame b'ka'adosha, whereby when it comes to the tuma of mace, it's a different shear. I think the shear of exercise. The Gemara says, and the Gemara indeed supports this. La'i afnui mufni. Indeed, in truth, this is a gzeir shav that is based on words that are available, that are open and superfluous. Michti. Now let's explain. Sheretz iskish l'shichva zera. I'll show you that indeed the fact that beged and or are mufna, they're not needed for the tumas shrotzim in itself, because it says by shrotzim l'shichva zera, makes a hekesh to shichva zera. Dirsiv ish asher teitze mimenu shichva zera. The pasuk in regards to shichva zera, it talks about that in samech lei ish asher yiga b'kol sheretz, and it says sheretz right next to that verse of shichva zera. V'ksiv bei b'shifra zera, in regards to shifra zera, it states v'kol beged v'chol or asher yeh Allah shifra zera. Beged v'or de koser achmona misheretz lamali. Therefore, why do I need the words of beged and or in regards to sheretz when I can learn it out from shifra zera? Shma mina lafnu. It must be that the words beged and or in regards to tumas shrotzim is superfluous to be used for the gzeira shava, and we indeed see that it's mufne, and therefore it's unrefutable. Vakati asked the Gemara, mufne mitzad echadu. Maybe this is only in regards to tumas shrotzim that it's mufne, but in regards to tumas hames, maybe it's not mufne. Maybe you do need it to explain over there, whereby you could ask a pircha. So the Gemara says, Hanich leman da'amar mufne mitzad echad lemeidin ve'em meshivin. If, according to one opinion that says that even if it's mufna mitzad echad, you can't ask a pircha. But the other man da'amar who argues and says that if it's mufna from one side, you could ask a pircha. So what are we going to say? How do we know that tumas hameis is superfluous? The Gemara answers, no. The meis nami afnuye mufna. Indeed, tumas hameis is also used from or v'beged, which is mufna. Michti. The Gemara now says, let's explain how that's so. Meis is kish l'shichva zera. Meis is also juxtaposed, is also next to the shichva zera. Dirshu. The pasuk says, v'hanogeya b'kol tamei nefesh, or isha asher teitzim min shichva zera. In the very pasuk, it puts two together. It's talking about somebody who has tumas hameis as well as somebody who has tumas shichva zera. V'ksiv b'shikva zera. In regards to shikva zera, the pasuk says, v'chol beged v'chol or. It refers to then the tuma of being on beged and or. So therefore, we learn beged v'or de koser achmona b'meis lamali. Since you can learn it out from shikva zera, why do we have the words beged and or in regards to tumas hameis? Shma mina la'afnuye. So we have now that it's mufne on both stadim, that both in regards to tumas shrotzim as well as tumas hameis, the words or and beged are superfluous, teaching me the gzeir shav that cannot be refuted. The Gemara now brings, in regards to the milchemas with Midyan, it says that Klal Yisrael, because of the promiscuity of the women of Midyan, 24,000 of Klal Yisrael fell, and afterwards HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded Moshe Rabbeinu to wage war on Midyan. It says when the officers came back, the following pasuk, I'll read the pasuk in its entirety. It says, "V'nakrev as korban Hashem." The officers said to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Let us bring a korban to Hashem. Ish asher motza klizov etzoda v'tzomi tabas olga v'kumaz." All these various ornaments, let us bring it as a korban to bring it to the Mishkan and donate it. Lechaper al nafshoseinu ish. It'll be a kapora for our nefesh. Says the Gemara, "V'nakrev es korban Hashem ish asher motza klizov etzoda v'tzomi tabas olga v'kumaz," referencing all the details of the various ornaments, the tachshitim that they want to donate to the Mishkan. Rabbi Elazar Agil, the Agil zed the fushel dodin. This would go over the breasts of a woman. Kumaz, what is kumaz? Zed the fushel beis harechem. This would be a part, a type of ornament that would go over oisam mokoim. Rav Yosef ihochi, if so, then it's very good. Hainu din targum minan machuch. That which the targum says the word kumaz is machuch. Davar mevi lidei kichuch. Something that brings to levity, referring to this place. Omar le rabbe migufe de krosh mamina. From the pasuk that says kumaz itself, you can learn out what it is. Kumaz is from the language kan, that's the kof, mem is mokom, and the zayin is zima. And therefore it's a reference to an ornament that goes around to that place that's also mokom, covering that place up. Vayikzoif Moshe al pikudei hachayil. The pasuk says that Moshe was angry at the officers. Omar Rav Nachman, Omar Rav Baravua, Omar lehen Moshe liYisrael. Moshe said to Klal Yisrael, Shema chazartem lekalkaloichem harishon. Maybe you return to your original kilkul, the promiscuity that you did before, and that's why you want to then offer up some sort of korban as a nedava for the Mishkan. Amru lo, they said to him, Loi nifka bimenu ish. None of us were missing, referring to none of us were missing even in our mitzvahs, and therefore none of us did any sin. Omar lehen, Moshe says to the officers, Im kain kapara lama, then why do you need a kapara? Omru loi, they said to him, Imide avera yatzanu, mide hiur lo yatzanu. Although we did not do a maisa, but here we do have what to be mechaper for. Miyad, immediately vanakrev as korban Hashem. Immediately it says shall bring a korban to Hashem, referring to this nedava of various ornaments, various jewelry that they took from the Midianites and are going to donate to the Mishkan. Tana deber Shmuel. It was taught in the Beis Medrash of Yishmael, Mipnei ma hutzrechu Yisrael, sheboiso ador kapar. Why did that generation need kapara? Says the Gemara, Mipnei shezonu eineim min ha'erva, because they feasted their eyes on erva and places that they shouldn't have seen and looked at, and therefore they need a kapara for that. Omer Rav Sheish, Mipnei ma mona hakosuv tachshitin. This list that the Torah gives us includes various ornaments, jewelry that is both for the exterior and the interior. If indeed it wants to then be meramez to that which was a sin because they used their eyes in the wrong way, then it should only list the interior ones. Why is mentioning the ring together with the kumaz? Says the Gemara to explain, Lo marloch, kol hamistakil be'etzbe ketana shel isha, anybody who looks at the little finger of a woman where the ring is placed in order to get hana, and therefore he stares at her little finger. Ki'ilu mistake b'makom hatarfo. It's as if he is looking at the place of nakedness just where the kumaz is, and therefore it's a remez to then teach this important lesson where a person should be careful not to look at the wrong things, even though it seems to be an exterior. If he's doing so for his own personal pleasure, you should know it's considered, Chazal say, Ki'ilu mistake b'makom haturfo.